Welcome back to today's show. How gorgeous did Denise Van Houten look there? You're live with me, Jenny Frost, as well as Donald McIntyre and baby guru Joe Tanton. Now today, we've been asking you for your fancy dress snaps, and we've got a couple more here for you. This is from Alison. This is a picture of me and my friend Jordan for my 21st. She's Poison Ivy and I'm Dorothy. Dressing up is my favourite thing to do. Good on you, girls. And now this next picture is another photo of somebody I recognise. And this is a picture of my best friend Lewis dressed up as his hero, Simba from The Lion King. Now Lewis is one of our producers, so he's going to be furious that that's been on television. But anyway, now Joe Tanton is here now to hand out lots of advice on bringing up baby. With 25 years in the baby biz, she has heard and seen it all. We'll start with baby names, and the Americans seem to be inspired by celebrities to name their children, don't they?
They do, yes. I mean, obviously I've worked with lots of babies and had very interesting names. So the obviously the Kardashians, there's Mason, which is, you know, very, very trending high in the USA. Sophia as well, Isabel here. There's obviously Jack. So there's, you know, it's always dependent on babies. I had a lady this morning said that her baby's going to be called Harper. So obviously we know, you know, the connotation with that. So I've worked with a Knox Rocket. Yes, so obviously Knox is Brad Pitt and Angelina's little boy.
Yes.
I've worked with a Fox.
Oh, I like Fox.
As in Fox and Mulder.
Yeah.
I've also worked with a lettuce leaf.
What?
Lettuce as a first name and leaf as a second.
That's just cruel.
Yes.
Okay, now Donald.
It is cool, isn't it?
Yes, lettuce leaf.
You've named your new son Hunter.
Yeah. Now, just like to say, I've named. You must be kidding. I didn't name the baby at all. I've had 6 months before the baby was born. We were in long-term heated discussions, and practically 6 months out. Well, thankfully he's got the name now, but certainly the registry office were banging down the door, letters, phone calls. You have to name your baby, and of course we breached the 42-day deadline. So in the end, my objection to Hunter, and it suits him great now, is that we have a tiger in the family. And I thought, well, you can't have a whole shooting party. It's the McIntyres, you know.
I love the name Tiger as well. What did you call the baby up until Hunter, though?
Well, basically,
Baby.
I've been calling him Boo Boo, basically, you know, which isn't going to sustain much into teenage years. But
Hunter! Boo Boo!
Boo Boo Bear. But anyway, at the end of the day, he is the happiest baby, so I don't care. He wouldn't mind. But certainly we did have a heated discussion.
My son's called Casper, and you'll be so surprised how many people say, oh, did you name him after the ghost? I'm like, funnily enough, no. I didn't, no. Anyway, now we've got a question here from Christine. She says, our baby flails and kicks in the night, so we have to swaddle her, and we're worried that we'll have to do this forever. We're not sure how to wean her off this. She will only nap in her pram during the day.
Yeah,
she's 6 months old.
Yeah, well, at 6 months, she should have grown out of her starter reflex. So all babies are born with a starter reflex, the Moro reflex, which makes them flare their arms and legs around. So little girls, usually about 3 months it starts going. By boys, it's about 4 months. The best thing to do to get her out of it is half swaddle her. So instead of fully swaddling her arms, just swaddle one arm, and always use the arm that she prefers to have near her face. So then she starts getting control over one hand. So do that for the daytime, for a week, and then at night time still full swaddle, and then try it at night time, and then of course then you can go to the 2 days. It's just because if they've been here like this, they're not quite sure and they have no control over their arms, and they're going to smack themselves in the face.
Okay,
so
I'm going to get this show and play it back with some rave music, because you look like you were doing a dance routine. Now the next headline, thank you for the advice, by the way. Next headline is, would you want to learn your unborn baby's sex by slicing into a cake?
Yeah, I mean, this is it, isn't it? It's like, and it's quite amusing, is that it's usually either dad wants to know or mum wants to know, or mum doesn't want to know. It's normally kind of a bit of a conflict. And I think what's very interesting is that they're actually getting the person that does the
so can we just quickly explain? Basically, you get a cake and you get it made with either pink or blue inside, and you cut it in and you show your family.
Exactly. So what they're getting when you go for a scan, they're actually getting the sonographer to write down and seal the envelope and then post it to the baker. so that nobody knows until the revealing of this cutting of the cake.
Do you know what? People have got far too much time on their hands, hey?
But a friend of mine was in a similar situation. He was with the person who was doing the scan, and but his daughter was working for a top market children's clothes chain in France, but was just leaving the job. But basically, she had all these fantastic discounts. So obviously, he wanted the discounts for the child, but didn't want to know the sex. So the stenographer wrote, said, "There's an envelope with my daughter's address on it, right? Tell her the sex
That
of the baby,
makes sense,
not
though.
ours."
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that
That's a
doesn't
good
make sense.
idea.
Did you find out the sex of your children?
I did. Well, the first. It was quite clear that there was a little thing dangling very early on, so there wasn't
Like father,
much.
like son, hey?
Unbelievable!
Now, we're going to go to some questions here on the iPad. Now, we've got a question from Jennifer. She says, I have a 7-month-old baby who's still waking through the night for breastfeeds, despite both my husband and I trying all manner of things, dummies, cuddles, control crying. The only thing that will settle her is breastfeeding. Until about 2 months ago, she'd been sleeping through from 7 till 5 a.m. I've just returned to work this week from maternity leave and I'm desperate for some sleep. Poor thing.
Yes. It is the usual thing where you're about to go back to work and mums panic because they think, okay, I can fix this, And what happens is at 7 months old to 9 months old, there is a phase where babies get very worried about separation anxiety. So it's really sad that it kind of kicks in just as you're going back to work because you start thinking that it's because you're going back to work. So the best thing to do is make sure that in the daytime she starts settling herself and choose one thing to do, because what happens, it sounds like, because she's desperate, she's choosing lots of different things. So my advice is to make sure that you choose one thing and you stick to it and you do it for 7 days and nights. So work at it in the day. Help her settle herself, lots of soothing and calming, and then stepping back and listening. And then in the night time, just leave her and listen to the sound she's making. Because what tends to happen is, because she's used to being breastfed back to sleep, she thinks that that's what happens before she goes back to sleep. But if she's in a light sleep, what she might do is grizzle, grizzle, grizzle. And if she doesn't get to that whole pitch of really getting upset, she might just grizzle herself back to sleep. So you might not need to go in, because if you do go in, then they're wide awake and expecting something. So try and sort it out in the daytime, but in the night time, make it all nice and quiet and calm, and just soothe and pat them, and just try and prolong the feed, so that what will happen is they'll start getting used to knowing that they're not just having a breastfeed all the time. So be consistent.
Were you lucky with good sleepers?
Well, not too bad. I mean, the little fella is just the most best behaved little boy.
Because you have my book.
Unbelievable. That's true. I must have read everything. But no, he's just very calm, and he must have known he was coming into a turbulent world because he's so chilled. And I think he's just one of those babies.
Do you think there's a truth with when your first baby? Because babies sense off you, and if you're a bit sort of stressed and neurotic, so the second child, you're kind of a bit more relaxed and you kind of take things in your stride a bit more.
Yeah, I do think that does happen. I do think, and it's obviously by the time the third one, they kind of have to fit into the family a little bit more.
Yeah.
I also think sometimes what happens is you can have the first angelic baby, and then you have this baby that's really
into a false sense of security.
And then you think I've done really well, and then all of a sudden this second baby's a bit of a nightmare. But I just think it's also how you react to the baby as well.
Yeah.
Because also I think the guilt then with the second baby is that you've got the first baby, and then this second baby kind of has to carry on with things because you're taking the little one to school or toddler classes, and they kind of have to fit into you. So they then don't get a lot of their sleeps in the cot. They're on, they're sleeping on the move all the time, and that's what they kind of get used to.
Well,
so
I don't know
different.
whether you know the difference between. I always thought the difference between one child and two children is like a trip to the supermarket, and a trip to Everest. Because the second child, and we had a part-time nanny. I still remember the jump. And honestly, it takes the wind out of me the amount of extra work a second child. A third child, it's like this. They fit in practically about 5% more work. It's not a hassle at all.
So it'll be a few years' time. It'll be 6.
No,
we'll be sitting here and it'll be 6.
Let's keep it at 3.
Now, next question on the iPad. Susie, my 20-week-old has lost the ability to comfort himself when he wakes. He won't take a dummy and will only settle again on the breast. I can be up 7 times a night. He has reflux, so it can be wind that wakes him up. We swaddle him, but I also want to break that. Can you help?
Yeah, it is the whole worrying about, obviously, the reflux. Because it's a medical condition, you need to go and see the GP because they will give you medication that will stop the reflux. With reflux babies, they need to be on a 30 to 40% incline on the cot, because otherwise the acid will give them heartburn, it'll come up into their chest cavity. So they'll find it very, very difficult to go to sleep when they're, and then obviously a breastfeed soothes it all. So then when they get upset and it hurts, they need a drink to calm it down. So obviously make sure you've got the medication. The swaddling, for boys, it's fine to up until 4 months, and then obviously you can do the half swaddle. And also teaching them that every time they wake, it isn't a breastfeed. Because I also think that when you start getting very tired, and you will do anything to get any more sleep. And if you think, oh, I'll just give a few minutes breastfeed and they'll go back to sleep. But also what happens, obviously, if you continue doing that with the reflux, is that you actually then, it goes into their tummy and then the reflux ends up coming up quite a lot.
Okay.
So you just have to be very careful
Right,
with that
I'm going to
as
have to thank you there, but thank you
Thank
so much for coming in, and
you.
thank you, Donald. Good luck with the series.